At this time, Nine projects the election is won by Labor. There is no path for the Liberal Party or the coalition to win. Albo gets a second go and Labor wins the election.
There you go. Charles.
Thoughts?
At this hour.
Do you still believe that there is,
Can you see hope?
Yeah. I'm struggling for the right words to say.
I can't see any scenario where the Liberal Party end up with a majority tonight.
No, there's no scenario where that was never going to happen.
Of course it was. You win 21 seats. That can happen.
The test of success.
We all play this game, don't we? We all walk into the cool room at the start and say exactly what's going to happen, and it happens, and then we all come onto the panel and act surprised because that's what we're paid to do, I suppose.
I still think there's just a whole lot of shock in the coalition, in the Liberal camp tonight, that this has played out as it has, but also that it has played out so quickly.
Yeah.
I think we were all prepared for a really long night.
That's fair.
Did you see tonight playing out as we have so far?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's brutal, isn't it?
Well, look, we still have the pre-polls
Yes.
and postals to count, but on what we're seeing at the moment, I didn't think that the election could be this bad, no.
A massive repudiation of the leader. Your response?
I think let's wait for the figures to come in. We respect Anthony Green. The seat of Dixon is a tough seat. It's always been a tough seat. As Anthony Green said, this is on the day figures. We need to get the pre-poll figures.
It's a repudiation nonetheless.
The private Peter Dutton is quite different to the persona that the public thinks they know, but how do you convey that in a way that's, authentic and genuine? That can be quite different or difficult for a politician, especially if you've had portfolios that are challenging and contested. And look, politics is a combative business, so you need to be quite hard-edged. Sometimes,
He was responsible for keeping children in offshore detention centres. I mean, he has, again, in this last 3 years, I think, as the leader of the Liberal Party, sent many strong messages about whether the reconciliation process with First Nations or the way we treat people who are seeking asylum in Australia. So
Peter Dutton was not liked. When I went to Brisbane, so many women, even men, every door. I said, Anthony Albanese or Peter Dutton, we don't like Peter Dutton.
Peter Dutton did a good job throughout the term exploiting grievances, but when it actually came to the moment for him to explain how he was going to address the concerns that he was raising, he had nothing to say.
Coalition's failure to put forward an agenda that the public felt was a solution to those grievances. You can't sit there for 3 years critiquing your way to government and then turn around and sort of say, we'll give you a bit of cheaper petrol, because voters just sort of say, well, that's not real change.
Peter Dutton's greatest achievement was keeping the Liberal Party together. If you ask any Liberal member, they'll say that, keeping all the factions together. But that's not the question tonight.
And I think Peter Dutton may have united the Liberal Party, but he's done it by shrinking the Liberal Party.
Again, you're losing from the moderate ranks. So what does that do to the party?
Well, I think, look, honestly, after the 2022 election, the people that we lost from the party ranks changed the dynamics of the party room and sort of shrunk the diversity of the party room, if you like. We had fewer people from metropolitan seats, more people from rural and regional seats, more people from Queensland.
We're contemplating in Melbourne a situation where there is no Liberal representing a seat in metropolitan Melbourne.
Big questions need to be asked of the Victorian Liberal Party once again. They continue to find new ways to fail. And I think with just 8 seats out of 38 to start with, and they could fall even further, there is simply no pathway to victory in the near future, in the next couple of elections, unless the Liberal Party can be semi-competitive in Victoria.
And already you're starting to see some Liberals and Nationals try and put all the blame on Peter Dutton. They sat around the cabinet table for 3 years. They were responsible for the policy development. They all backed the nuclear plan. They all backed the public service cuts.
It just looked like someone went through ScoMo's old filing cabinet and found a policy and dusted it off and sort of produced it on the budget and reply speech. So, the party needs to get back to its core beliefs and values, lower taxes, lower government spending, but articulate the case, not just leave it for the last 4 weeks.
The question now, however, is will this be the worst result for the coalition since our party's inception in the last 80 years?
Now in play.
Can you believe
if we don't have a significant change in pre-polls and postals in the next hour and the next few days, we could actually end up with less than a third of the seats in the House of Representatives, which would be our worst result since 1943.
Now, The greater problem here for the Liberal Party is they're institutionally almost broken in every state division, with the exception of Queensland and Northern Territory. New South Wales is still a fairly competitive outfit, but in every other state division, they're utterly broken.
One thing that I do want to say to all Liberal Party members and to everyone who has supported the Liberal Party and the National Party, that we will rebuild. Now, we are going to go about that task the same way that we did in 2022.
I would have felt the result of 2022 actually provided a whole heap of really important learnings for particularly the Liberal Party, given so many of us came into those seats. And honestly, I haven't seen a lot of evidence that those learnings were actually taken on board with a sense of responsibility.
There'll be soul searching. I wonder whether or not our loss in 2022 was papered over because everyone put it down to Morrison. It was just the Morrison factor, you know. I'm not confident, this is rock bottom now, but I'm not confident they understood that they could fall even further if they did not do the work.
You feel like the Liberal Party's left you, right? That's what people say to me all the time in these Teal seats, and it's what the Teal members of Parliament say. They come from Liberal Party families, they've been involved in the Liberal Party in many times, in many circumstances in the past. They say it feels like the Liberal Party's left me.
The affluent, progressive, socially progressive, or at least socially open Liberal voter who economically always supported people like John Howard, low taxes, small government, less government regulation, they think, well, Kate Chaney's is just as good as voting for a Liberal. Allegra Spender's in exactly the same boat.
I agree.
I will concede that there are things that we are going to have to look at the way we campaigned in this election that we will never do again. I do think that Michaelia made a very good point, which is that there were so many lies that we didn't counter quick enough.
Oh my God, you are not the victims here. The Australian people.
Do you know what? You said real wages rose under you. They didn't. They went backwards.
They rose faster than inflation.
No, they didn't. No. They didn't. That's what a real wage is about, Bill.
Oh my God, you're a victim.
Backwards.
You are not a victim.
I'm not saying that we are...
Now, you are saying you're the victim of a bunch of lies and that the Australian people were mugs and were tricked. Can I tell you, that is a quick road to electoral hell if you run that argument.
We've got to stop drinking the Kool-Aid from the fire hose, and we need to start having a serious review. We keep on deluding ourselves that, you know, we're just a few tactical devices away from winning an election.
It was clear we were competitive. Not that long ago, in December and January and February, very competitive. So that suggests to me that, yes, some adjustments need to be made, but it doesn't suggest a wholesale structural realignment. There's still something appealing about our brand and our policy proposition and our values. I don't think we're going to, you know, reinvent ourselves as a movement.
The last time they had a result this bad in 1943, they changed their name and they completely changed their policies to be one that was much more pro-worker. Let's have a mixed economy. Let's try and make everyone be able to afford a house and be on the side of people getting pay rises. This is a very different approach from Menzies that he had to take to rebrand his party. And they have to look as... If this is the worst result since the party was formed, they have to look at significantly changing who they are, because this is the biggest rejection they've had at the polls since the party was formed federally.
And we have to learn that you cannot win elections from the right of the political spectrum any more than you can win them from the left of the political spectrum. That elections are won either from the centre-left or the centre-right. John Howard learnt that lesson after his first term as the leader of the party. In his second term, he brought everyone together, small L Liberals, Conservatives, and when the coalition is a genuine coalition of smaller Liberals and Conservatives, Labor finds it very hard to beat.
We're talking about structural issues for the Liberal Party. What do all these people have in common other than the fact that they led the Liberal Party at some point? Menzies, Holt, Gordon, McMahon, Snedden, Peacock, Howard, Hewson, Downer, Nelson, Turnbull, Abbott and Dutton. They all represented seats the Liberal Party no longer represents. Thank God they've hung on to Wannon and Cook.
Yeah, well, that's quite a way to finish.
I think, in the words of someone, I think they need to come out and have one long last look for Harold Holt.
Thank you all. Thank you for being here.